They say every picture tells a story, but what if the story hasn't happened yet? Ethan was a young photographer, obsessed with capturing forgotten places, abandoned houses, empty streets, crumbling factories. He loved to find beauty in decay. His friends often joked that he had a graveyard eye, always drawn to what should have been left behind. But Ethan didn't care. He believed that the past whispered through peeling paint and broken glass, and he wanted to hear it. One rainy afternoon, he stumbled into a pawn shop tucked between two boarded-up stores. Dust coated the shelves, and the air smelled of mildew. Behind the counter, an old man with a crooked back and pale eyes watched silently as Ethan browsed. In the corner, beneath a stack of rusted lamps, Ethan found it. A vintage film camera, heavy and worn, its leather cracked with age. The lens was clouded, but the frame was solid. Something about it called to him. "How much?" Ethan asked. The old man tilted his head as though surprised anyone had touched the camera. His voice was hoarse, almost a whisper. $20, no refunds. Ethan handed over the cash without hesitation. As the man slid the camera across the counter, their fingers brushed. For a fleeting second, Ethan swore he felt a shiver crawl under his skin, like static electricity. That night he cleaned the camera, winding its gears with care. Inside, to his surprise, was a roll of undeveloped film. He almost threw it out, assuming it was ruined. But curiosity won. The next day, he took it to a small dark room he sometimes rented in the city. Hours later, the images began to appear on the drying line. Ethan frowned. The photos were sharp, too sharp, given the camera's age. Each one captured scenes he didn't recognize. A dimly lit alley, a shadowy figure standing beneath a flickering street lamp, a woman staring blankly from a cracked window. The strangest part? They looked modern. The cars, the buildings. They weren't decades old. They could have been taken yesterday. Ethan flipped through them, unsettled but fascinated. Then his stomach dropped. The last photo was of him. He stood on a street corner at night, camera hanging around his neck, rain dripping from his jacket. His head was turned slightly as though he was watching something or someone. Ethan stared at it, his pulse quickening. He had no memory of this. He had never been on that street. He told himself it was a coincidence. Maybe someone else who owned the camera before him looked similar. Maybe the film had been exposed recently. But deep down, a knot of unease tightened in his chest. That night he couldn't sleep. He placed the photo on his desk and glanced at it every few minutes, as though expecting it to change. And in the dim glow of his lamp, he swore the reflection in the puddle behind his photographed self was moving. The next day, Ethan carried the camera with him, telling himself he'd test it. He loaded a new roll of film and wandered the city, snapping photos at random. A market, a bus stop, a child chasing a balloon. Everything seemed normal. When he developed the roll, however, his heart froze. The images were not the ones he had taken. Instead, the photos showed people in moments of terror. A woman screaming as something unseen dragged her into shadows. A man lying face down in the street, blood pooling beneath him. A child's toy floating in a bathtub full of dark water. The final photo was again of Ethan. This time he was asleep in his own bed. The photo was impossibly precise. The blanket, the angle of his face, the faint glow of his alarm clock. He dropped the picture, his skin crawling. No one had been in his apartment. No one could have taken that photo. For the first time, Ethan thought about destroying the camera, but he couldn't. Something stronger than fear pulled at him. It wasn't just a tool, it was a key, a window, maybe even a warning. He decided to test it again. He took the camera into the city at night, following his instincts. His fingers trembled as he clicked the shutter in dark alleys and empty streets. When he developed the film, he nearly vomited. The photographs showed accidents, murders, tragedies, a subway car filled with smoke, a man falling from a bridge, a face pressed against glass, eyes wide with horror. But what made his blood run cold was the timestamp on one of the photos, tomorrow's date. The last photo on the roll was the worst. It showed Ethan standing on a deserted street, his mouth open in a scream, hands raised as though pushing something away. And behind him, something tall, thin, and faceless loomed from the shadows. Ethan stared at the image for hours, his mind unraveling. Was this the future? Was the camera showing him what was to come, or was it creating it? The following night, unable to resist, he returned to the spot in the photo. The street was silent, empty. He waited, camera in hand, breath fogging in the cold air. Every creak of metal, every shifting shadow made his skin prickle. Hours passed. Nothing happened. Finally exhausted, he stumbled home. Relief washed over him as he crawled into bed, telling himself he was paranoid. But when he woke, the developed photographs were waiting on his desk. He hadn't touched the camera. He hadn't even loaded new film. Yet there they were. The first showed him walking home the night before. The second showed him unlocking his apartment door. The third, him sleeping again. Only this time, the faceless figure stood in the corner of his room, watching. The final photograph was blank. Just empty darkness, as though the lens had been swallowed whole. Ethan fled his apartment that morning, camera clutched to his chest. He confronted the pawn shop owner, slamming the photos onto the counter. "What the hell is this?" he demanded. The old man only smiled, his pale eyes glinting. "You see it now," he rasped. "The truth the camera shows. It doesn't just take pictures, it takes moments. Moments that hunger. Once it chooses you, it never stops." Ethan's blood ran cold. "Take it back, please." The man shook his head slowly. "It's yours now. The lens has your reflection. It won't look at anyone else." Ethan staggered back, clutching the cursed camera. He wanted to smash it, to destroy it, but part of him knew it wouldn't matter. It wasn't just an object, it was a doorway, and he had already stepped through. That night, Ethan locked the camera in a drawer and swore never to touch it again. But the photographs didn't stop. Every morning, new prints appeared on his desk, images of places he hadn't been, people he didn't know, tragedies yet to unfold, and always among them, a picture of himself. Each one worse than the last. The final photograph he ever saw showed him standing in darkness, surrounded by dozens of faceless figures. His hands were bound, his mouth sewn shut. His camera hung from his neck, the lens cracked but still open, still watching. No one has seen Ethan since. His apartment was found abandoned, furniture covered in dust, film rolls scattered across the floor. The camera was gone. But sometimes photographs appear in the mailboxes of strangers across the city, photos of people they've never met, places they've never been. And in the background of some of them, if you look closely enough, you'll see a man holding a camera. His face is always turned away,